Are you tired of the endless stream of fantasy marketing and vanity metrics? Yeah, so am I. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an internationally published photographer, media specialist, and marketing strategist. I'm also a student of professional development, and like you, I've been left frustrated by all of this influencer-driven generic advice, making us think that we are just one course, conference, or manifestation away from the life of our dreams. We need to cut through this crap and move beyond the posturing, beyond the facade, beyond the image to take real action on the real work that will create the real results. This is the Beyond the Image podcast. What is going on? And thank you so much for tuning in to this week's live episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. Now, apologies in advance. You may already hear it in my voice. I ended up losing my voice earlier this week. And believe it or not, this is my voice coming back. It's like middle-aged puberty is what it is. Something about having to be on a mic, 20 hours a week definitely will kill the voice. Today's topic that we're going to be diving into is red flags that you need to be watching out for, the warning signs that you need to be aware of when it comes to proposing to, talking to, negotiating with, proposing your services to prospective clients. And you may have heard some of these red flags. You may have experienced some of these yourself. They can feel very daunting while they're happening. They can feel very frustrating, which is why I wanted to dive into it. In hindsight, they're funny. In hindsight, we could look back at them and really laugh and think, God, that was so funny that that client said that thing and how badly it all turned out. Because here's the thing, when we are exposed to these red flags, we go through this thought process in our minds. These red flags, really, they're warning signs. They're early indicators of what will become a toxic professional relationship. They are warning signs of what will become a toxic professional relationship. And when we first see these warning signs, when we first see these red flags, the first thing that comes to our mind is, well, maybe it won't be that bad. Maybe, I'm overreacting to this. Maybe I should have a positive outlook on this. I'd rather err on the side of trusting as opposed to automatically assuming that everyone's out to get me. And the problem is when we do this, we put ourselves in a position to allow a lack of respect for our professional boundaries, because ultimately our clients and the clients we're proposing to are not the enemy. That's not really the crux of the issue here. The crux of the issue here is when we allow a lack of boundaries, when we allow certain behaviors, or when we allow certain practices to enter into a business transaction. That's when it creates this toxic relationship. And a lot of these things will come up before we ever actually get to the project. They come up in proposing to a client. They come up on sales calls. They come up on discovery calls. They come up when a client contacts you or a prospective lead reaches out to you or wants to do business with you. Okay. So what I want to do is go through a whole bunch that I thought of. And then also I posted in our private Facebook group about some of these, and people comment with a whole bunch. But if you have some that you've seen, put them in the chat box. And I'd love to see what some of the ones you've experienced are, because that's kind of what's so interesting about this is, you may have heard some of the ones I've experienced, but I may be forgetting some that as soon as you type it in, I'll be like, oh my gosh, yes, that is absolutely it. And then also, every time we do one of these lives, I answer questions on your brand, on your business, on your marketing, on your sales. I had a question come in prior to going live, and it was about, should I pay for this magazine cover feature? It's a really good question about paying for media. So I'm going to answer that question, but after we talk about red flags. So stay to the end for that because I really think that's an important question. That if you are like me, you're getting propositions to pay for media features on a regular basis. And it's important to understand what that means. Is it a scam? And really how to best respond to these proposals. Um, Before we get into red flags, I do want to mention that we just opened up passes for Get Published Live. I'm branded today. There we go. Get Published Live. Um, Every year at Get Published Live, we not only teach you everything you need to know about how to land and leverage top media features, but just by attending, you will have the opportunity to land top magazine, top podcast features, top digital spots, top TV spots, and more. You truly can get published just by attending. So it's May 18th through 21st. It's in Phoenix, Arizona. You can attend in person, you can attend virtually, and just by attending, you open yourself up to a bevy of casting opportunities. So I want to show you a little trailer that we pulled together for this.
Know how critically important your brand awareness is because it is impossible to grow your business if no one knows you exist. Now, unfortunately, with that being said, most entrepreneurs, influencers, content creators, and brand managers do not have a strategy on how they're going to get in front of their target clients. Now, this has been made even more difficult with so many rushing online to promote their products or their services in what has become an extremely crowded marketplace. That is why I am here to tell you that getting published, earned media, is the fastest, is the most effective way to grow your business by number one, amplifying your brand authority and awareness, and number two, generating new leads of prospective clients for your business. Now, if you're not taking advantage of the power of earned media, you're going to be continuing to get burnt out trying to work harder in hopes that your clients will eventually find you. My name is James Patrick, and I'm an internationally published photographer with more than 600 published magazine covers to my credit. I'm also the founder of Get Published Live, and throughout my entire career, I've been able to tap into and leverage the power of earned media. And that is why at Get Published Live, we are 100% focused on teaching you how to get published to grow your brand and your business. And we're talking about getting published. We are talking about magazine features. We're talking about podcast spots. We're talking about digital interviews. We're talking about speaking engagements. We're talking about writing opportunities and so much more. All of this to unlock your fullest potential as a business owner. Now, whether you're an individual building your own brand or you own multiple businesses, everyone can learn how to leverage the power of earned media. Now, in addition to that, Get Published Live offers you the unparalleled opportunity to actually cast for and land top media features just by attending the conference. That's right, just by attending Get Published Live, you too can get published. And since launching, we have helped attendees land more than 500 published media features, including more than 60 magazine covers. Nowhere else is this unparalleled opportunity possible. Most events and conferences only rely on education, but we want to give you real opportunities. You will finally be equipped with the tools, the resources, the connections, and most importantly, the opportunities that you need to accelerate your growth in your career. So I invite you to join us at Get Published Live, and I cannot wait to see the success that you will create.
All right. So speaking of magazine covers, we actually just had one launch just a couple days ago. Let me pull that up right here. There we go. Dr. Jordan Wiggins, who was cast at Fitposium, which is now called Get Published Live, last year, uh, came out to Arizona and we shot this new cover of Icon Fit magazine. And it is a cover. I don't know if I've ever been more proud of one of our covers of Icon Fit magazine. So massive kudos goes out to Dr. Jordan Wiggins for this feature. Um, We are going to be casting upcoming covers of Icon Fit magazine, covers of Ricochet magazine. We have confirmed Train for Her is going to be doing a cover casting at Get Published Live. Inside Fitness has partnered up with us again. Let's see who else we had. We had a whole bunch of media outlets partner up with us. Let me pull up that list. So, as I'm pulling up that list, passes are available at getpublished.live. That is the website, getpublished.live. All right, let's see where we're at. All right, Icon Fit magazine cover, Ricochet magazine cover, PFP magazine's casting for people, Robert Irvine magazine is casting for paid features, meaning they're going to pay you. Muscle and Health magazine's casting for features, Define Fitness magazine's casting for features, Best Holistic Life is casting for features. We have at least 5 or 6 magazines from PLPG Publishing Group that are going to be casting for covers. Train magazine's casting for features. Train for Her magazine is casting for a cover. Inside Fitness magazine is casting for features and more. Holy crap. That's a lot of media features. And you qualify for all of them just by attending. So go to getpublished.live. You can get your early bird pass in there. I got a couple of people on Facebook. It is incredible. There we go. Awesome. Also, it is nice to play that promo clip and to remind myself what my voice actually sounds like. Oh my gosh. I blame my child is what it is. Goes to daycare. He brought home this head cold. So I was sick over the weekend. Feel fine now. I just sound like I smoked a pack of Marlboros. All right. So red flags when it comes to engaging prospective clients. And I'm just curious who's heard these or if you have any others. So if you experience some red flags that you've ignored and you end up taking on that client anyway, and it ended terribly. I want you to put what those red flags were in the chat box. I'm really curious. Okay, here's one. I get this as a photographer. The statement is as follows. You know, we might not have the biggest budget right now, but there's a lot of work down the pipeline. So if you just help us out right now on your pricing, there's going to be so much more work down the road. I'm curious who here has ever heard that one. It's kind of in this this posture that we don't want to pay you what you say you charge, but we want to give you so much work, which we also don't want to pay what you want to charge. But we think that the amount of work we're going to give you is going to make up for the fact that we don't want to pay you for what you want to charge or for what you feel you're worth. I've fallen for this countless times, and I can tell you it has never happened. That work down the pipeline has never come to fruition, never manifested, not one time. And every photographer I've ever known, every contractor I've ever known has never had that actually happen for them. So if there's so much work coming down the pipeline, why don't you have the finances to invest in the right professionals now if there's so much work coming down the pipeline? Doesn't make sense. Excuse me. Or they'll try to leverage in, there's not that much money in this, but it's a lot of exposure in this. I didn't realize I was going to get exposure. I get exposure anyway. I get exposure when you pay me. Lori's heard that many times. So my response to this is simply, I am happy to give discounts or rewards to clients who've returned to me over and over and over again. I mean, sure. If I've had clients hire me for a long time, they've given me a lot of work. Then, yeah, I'd be happy to reward them with a discount on services, like a professional courtesy discount. But that's after they've given me lots of work. Why would I give someone a reward and a discount on work if they've never hired me before? That doesn't make sense. What about the clients who've been hiring me for years? They're not getting the pricing that you're asking for. What makes you more qualified to receive that when they've been getting my services for years? If anything, they're going to get it as a reward for continuing to work with me for years. And that just makes sense. So, yeah, I'm happy to discount services once you start hiring me. And after a while, I'll probably give you a discount at some point as a thank you for your continued patronage. So that's how I'd respond to that. The next one I would say are there there's no other way to say it is their manners. Uh, let's say you have a sales call with someone. Were they late to the sales call? Were they late to the sales call and had no apology? Or did they totally forget the sales call is even happening? Or was the sales call happening and they forgot it was on Zoom? So they had to install Zoom. Or they get on the sales call and they, even though it's 2023, they have no idea how to use Zoom for some reason. I really feel like how someone shows up to your sales calls is indicative of how they're going to show up for you as a client. If someone does not invest into giving their attention and their energy into a prospective call, they're not going to do that as a client. They're going to, if they're late on that first call, they're going to be late on most calls. If they seem to not understand how to use what should be basic technology, that's going to be a problem moving forward. How they act in that call will translate into what their relationship with you is going to feel like and be like moving forward. What they bring up on that call is going to give you some signs. So, for example, one of the things that will sometimes come up on intake calls that I'll have with clients is when they express frustration with a past service provider. Now, why would someone express frustration with a past service provider? Because they've been burned. They've been burned and they do not want to be burned again. That's not a bad thing unless their framing of that past relationship is being put onto their relationship with you, where you are immediately forced to be on the defensive, or they are wanting you to be on the defensive. I've been burned before, so you need to show me how you're not going to burn me. You can't win that one because unfortunately the view is that you are starting behind and you have to earn even the baseline of trust. So they want to hire you, but they don't trust that you're actually going to do it. So they're hiring you under the pretense that you might fail. And that's a bad way to start a relationship. So is it okay for someone, a prospective client, to lament about a past bad experience? Yeah. But to harbor on it, that to me would be a red flag. And my response to that would be something in the effect of it sounds to me, or what I'm hearing is there's still some latent resentment or anger from this past transaction that you had. Is this something that you still need to work through or move on from before you engage with a new service provider? I find that if you are able to identify and professionally with boundaries call it out, it can catch someone who may not even realize what they're doing. But I'm sure many of you have had that, and it's uncomfortable. It's like, gosh, do they feel like everyone? And I've had that where it's just like every coach I've ever worked with has been a failure. Every coach I've ever worked with has burned me or scammed me. It At that point, if I hear that at that point, it really doesn't matter the quality of service I provide. I'm just going to be the next person who did not work for them because that's the positioning that they've chosen. Someone on Facebook says, some people just come into situations telling themselves that it won't work out, that it makes things difficult. That's an uphill battle. Yeah, I get that. Regardless of what service we provide, like I provide business coaching, many of you provide personal training. If someone does not believe it is going to work, they're right. It's that adage. Whether you believe you can or you cannot, you are absolutely right. If you believe you can, you're going to figure out a way to do it. If you believe you can't, you won't. It's not more complicated than that. So, identifying, is this someone who is committed? Is this someone who's willing to do the work? Is this someone who has the aspirations that you want to work with and train with? And I would add to that, when clients are unsure even of what their goals are. I'm not sure what I want to do. Well, it's going to be hard to get you that result then. If I have clients who are unclear about where they want to go, one, they're probably not going to hire me. But even if they did, how are they going to know if they got there? Another red flag I've seen is when they want extraordinarily or unrealistically fast results. That right there really it implies to me that they have just been indoctrinated with whatever is out in the social media coaching sphere, that if you run this certain ad campaign, or if you use this certain AI to write your sales copy, or you trigger this email sequence, that everything will fall into place. And I get so frustrated when I read articles or read these books where someone talks about how they opened up their online store and they woke up and there was $50,000 in their bank account the next day overnight. It was just like, that's not normal. In fact, I don't even know if that's real. And it's a terrible thing to compare yourself to. And if that's the expectation, and you as a service provider know that that's not realistic, it's your responsibility to say that. And if they choose to hire someone else, that's okay. Because it's not realistic. You're setting yourself up for failure with them. So be honest. I don't believe this is a realistic goal. Here is what I'd consider to be a more realistic time frame. And they may disagree with you and go hire someone else and probably not hit the goal, but they will have, in hindsight, had trust in you for being honest with them. I'd rather someone, and this has happened, where someone comes back to me after working with someone else who promised them something that they could not deliver. I said, okay, you were right. Maybe I need to try it this other way. Okay. Um, Back to creative services. when someone proposes me like a creative shoot, an ad campaign or something like that, and I'll ask them what their budget is. They're asking me to bid. I'm like, well, give me a realistic expectation of your budget. And they refuse to give any realistic expectation of a budget. That to me is a red flag. That to me says they're price shopping, that they're just going to hire who's cheapest. If they hire who's cheapest, okay. It's probably not going to be me. So I might not even propose on that. This is one that came up in the Facebook group. It's that, well, I have to ask and then fill in the blank with who they have to ask. I have to ask my spouse. I have to ask a parent. I have to ask a sibling. And what's interesting about this, no, to be clear, I do not make any monetary decisions without buy-in from my family. But I ultimately know what the decision's going to be before I present it to my family. I don't present it to my family asking for permission. Why would I not present it to my family asking for permission? Because it's my business, not my family's business. If it was a partnership, that would be different. But it's my business. I know what's best for my business. I'm just getting my family to understand why I believe this is important. It's so, the thing that I've been thinking about this, like with spouses, I don't know anyone that's killed more potential businesses than a spouse, and maybe parents. Let me talk to my spouse about it. But if your spouse is not invested in your brand or your business, why would they have any idea what to do? If they're not an entrepreneur themselves, why would they have any idea what to do? It's your brand, it's your business. You need to make these decisions. So when someone shares that with me, I could go a couple different routes depending on if I actually think they're serious or not. Ultimately, I don't believe in hard sales. It's not something that I feel aligned with. But I'll might say something like, "Well, let me know what questions they would have, and I can answer them now so you can go in with the right information if you're serious about this. What would their questions be?" And I'll tell you the answers right now. But ultimately, if someone is not ready to move forward, and by not ready, if someone is willing to allow another person, whether it's a spouse or a sibling or a friend, to derail them from their goals, then they're not ready. Okay. Hopefully, they keep me in mind when they are. Um, I would also pay attention to how you feel on sales calls. If you feel drained or exhausted, or that they've been pulling your energy too much, that's a red flag. That's probably going to be what it would be like to work with them. But if on a sales call or an intake call, you feel lit up talking to this person, you're excited to work with them, well, that's a sign that you should propose your services. And it's a sign that is going to be felt by them. They get excited too. They're like, wow, this person's really invested in me. You should really pay attention to your intuition on how you feel when you're engaging with someone like this. Ultimately, like when you work with someone, this is a relationship. This is not just you selling a service and adios, and you're just trying to crunch numbers. I hate that approach. Oh, here's one that came up on Facebook. I got a kick out of this one because this has happened to me where someone books an intake call with me. And then on the intake call, tries to sell me on their services. That is an egregious abuse of boundaries. They know they booked an intake call to work with me, but instead they want me to hire them. Or I had someone do this the other day where they booked a call with me and they didn't want to hire me. or they said they wanted to hire me, but really they wanted to create a partnership with me, which meant that they wouldn't pay me, but they would just give me a percentage of their earnings. No, no, that was offensive. I found that actually very offensive. Um, it was an abuse of my time. And if I were to look at the trajectory, and this is not, throwing shade, I'm not going to say who this was, but if I were to look at the trajectory of this person's career, they are where they were 10 years ago. So that approach is not working for them. I had a company reach out to me, a national brand, meaning they have plenty of money in a very lucrative industry. I'll just say it's the golf industry. There's no business in the golf industry that's not having, that's not flowing with cash. Like that is a very lucrative industry because it markets to an affluent society. And I was giving them competitive rates on a bid, competitive rates. And they kept hemming and hawing. Well, we're not sure if we want an on-call photographer, meaning a monthly retainer, or if we just want to hire a la carte, meaning, we'll hire you per project. I'm not sure. So I gave them pricing for each. We're not sure. Your pricing is pretty comparable with others we're bidding out. We just don't know. We really like your work. We really want to work with you. They're hemming and hawing. All these are red flags. And they eventually came to me and they're like, tell you what, would you do a spec shoot for us? A spec shoot. What that means, a spec shoot means is they want me to shoot something for them for free. And if we like the spec shoot, there'll be a lot of work down the road. We just came full circle on that. So they wanted me to then work on a project for them for no money. They get the assets. So I work for free to prove that I can work for them. I've been doing this for 20 years. Are you kidding me? Absolutely not. No. No. Price I said or nothing. I'm not even going to negotiate now. Like any negotiation that I was willing to do went right out the damn window once they asked me to do a spec shoot. No. Full bid, full price, or nothing. And, that was like, I don't know, 8, 9 months ago. They still haven't hired a damn photographer. One of the other ones that came up in the group was, people asking for things to be cheaper or free, Here was one that came up in the group. They're late to the call. They don't have a budget. It begins to feel like a job interview. They tell me they've already spoken to someone who can do it cheaper. They don't have clear objectives. They don't know who their competitors are. They don't have clear packages for what they're offering. Yeah, these are all great warning flags or warning signs. Someone else said that they have to ask their spouse or for money, or they complain about how little time they have. Yeah, I mean, if someone's not willing to acknowledge that takes time to build something or it takes time to get results, that's a problem. Yeah, these are great. Yeah, these are great. I appreciate you sending these in. So, what do we do about this? We pay attention to them. To take this back to why this topic is being presented, the problem, once again, is not the client. Even though it's kind of fun to laugh at some of the things that have been presented to us, the problem only occurs when we allow an infringement upon our professional boundaries. That's when it becomes a problem. If a client asks you to work for free and you say no, then there was no problem. You didn't work for free. If you said yes and you worked for free and then you grew resentment and anger, or you worked for way less and you grew resentment and anger, then there's a problem. Then you're going to deliver bad products or services, then they're going to be mad at you. Well, you said you could do it. Well, I'm doing it for a fraction of the cost. Well, you agreed to do it for a fraction of the cost. That was you. You agreed to do it. This is about our boundaries professionally, the behaviors and the practices that we employ. So, one of the things I do with all my clients, all my coaching clients, is I send them my coaching principles. And it's a simple email that goes out. And it basically says, here are my expectations for you as a client. I expect you, for example, to book your own coaching sessions with me. I'm not going to follow up with you. Here's the link, bookmark it. You have to schedule these. Here's my office hours link, bookmark it. If you have questions, show up. I expect you to show up X number of times per month. I expect you to show up to calls on time. I expect you to show up calls with your homework done. I expect you to fill out your reports, letting me know your progress. These are my expectations. Here are my deliverables. Here's what you can expect of me. I'll show up on time. I'll show up with the right energy. I'll show up prepared and focused solely on you. And I will be committed to you and your brand and your goals throughout the tenure of this relationship. It's a simple email, but I think it's effective. If you don't set expectations, they're not going to follow them. But if you set your expectations, this is what I expect of you. Okay. You've communicated it. If they don't follow it, that's not your fault because you communicated it. You communicated and you enforce. We do it at our conference. We have a code of conduct. When we went virtual at our conference, we implemented a code of conduct. And it said things like, if I'm here, I'm here. My camera's on. I'm engaging. I'm not just sitting in the back of the room. I'm not putting this on and working on something else. Because that's not fair to the people that I get put in strategy rooms with or collaborations with. I'm an active participant. Okay. All right. So I feel like we've kind of hit this from all angles, but if there are any other red flags that you've come across, definitely drop them in the chat box. Or if there are questions that anyone has on marketing, sales, business development, anything of the sort, now's the time to ask. I mentioned at the top of the show that we had a question come in about should you pay to get published? So I'll answer that. Before I do that, I want to say that today we dropped a new episode of the Beyond the Image podcast. It's available wherever you get your podcast, where I interview Chef Robert Irvine. You may recognize him from the TV show Restaurant Impossible. Such a fun show. And he came on the show. He just dropped his new book, Overcoming Impossible. And he came on the show and we had a very, very detailed conversation about overcoming personal obstacles as well as professional roadblocks to achieve whatever it is that you choose to achieve in your life or in your business. It was a very enlightening conversation. That episode is out now on the Beyond the Image podcast, wherever you get your shows. Okay, so should you pay to get published? So here's a question that came in. Let's see. Pull up my Instagram. All right. There it is. All right. I just read your article on should models pay to be on magazine covers. I was offered the chance to be on a cover today of a new magazine to be featured in Barnes & Noble online at JFK International Airport, Miami International Airport, LAX, and internationally. This is from a model I competed in pageantry with who's partnering with a new company. The offer is $500 to be featured on the cover and have an article written, and a second offer to contribute as a writer in her magazine. Is this a scam or should I go for the opportunity? How genuine in your experience? So, first, is it a scam? It really depends how you define the word scam. It would be a scam if they're charging you and then there was no magazine. That would be a scam. But if they're charging you and they do what they say, they publish a magazine, it wasn't a scam. But the question is, why would you want it? Why would you want to pay $500 for something that could be earned for free? You have to look at this based off your goals. And we talk about 3 goals for earned media. Goal number 1, vanity. Hey, maybe I just want to see myself on a cover. And to me, that's worth $500. There you go. Goal number 2, authority amplification. That by being featured in in this media outlet, it is going to establish me as a subject matter expert within my field. Now, is a magazine that would charge you going to help you amplify your authority? It would be interesting to see someone argue that. Because magazines that charge, like I get these emails, I don't know, a couple times a week. It's like, be on the cover of CIO Today. I don't even know what the hell that is. Only for $997, we'll put you on the cover of a magazine I've never heard of. Okay. How does this help me? No one's ever heard of this magazine. So how is this going to amplify my authority? Probably won't. Um, so then the third goal is lead generation, meaning people see the media feature, they see you, they like your brand, and they enter into your ecosystem as a prospective lead or client, which means that the media outlet has to have an audience. If they don't have an audience, what are you paying for? Just vanity. Okay. Um, so does the audience of this media feature, are they going to be clients who'd hire me? Are they going to be clients who'd hire you as a fitness coach? Are they going to be clients who would hire me as a business coach or as a photographer? Yes or no? If the answer is no, once again, the only thing you're paying for is vanity. It's an advertisement. That's all it is. So treat it like an advertisement. What is the return you are going to get on this investment for this advertisement? So I would be asking if I were in this, and to be fully transparent, we've earned media features and we've paid for some media features. We've done both. But whenever we pay for a media feature, we have to very diligently figure out the return on the investment. What are we getting out of this media feature? And we have to make sure that we're making our money back. Otherwise, what's the point? So I would be asking about print numbers. I would be asking about distribution statistics. I would be asking about reader demographics. So, for example, there's a national fitness magazine that uh, it's on newsstands throughout the country. Um, here it is. And the chief photographer for this magazine has on his website, and I'll read this to you right off his website. All right. For $35,000, 2-day photo shoot. Day one is shooting the cover of one of his magazines, not a newsstand magazine, just a independent published magazine. Second day is shooting for a cover of this national newsstand publication with a guaranteed pictorial inside. So it's interesting. The $35,000 does not say guaranteed cover. It says the second day is shooting for a cover with a guaranteed pictorial inside. And we're also shoot for the annual best body guide. They'll both be on newsstands. Anyone can get into a digital fitness magazine, not on print newsstands. You will also be featured on the magazine's podcast. Okay, so they're tying in the podcast into this as well. $35,000. Now, here's the problem. All the readers of this magazine are already in the fitness industry. Are you going to generate any leads from this? It'd be hard to argue it once again, because chances are everyone who's reading this magazine is doing what you do. They're in the same business as you. But that's interesting. $35,000. I'm reading this right off this photographer's website. So what this does, unfortunately, is anytime you will now see the cover of whatever that magazine is, I haven't mentioned it, you're going to question, did this person earn this? Or did they just write a check for 35 grand? And if you think they just wrote a check for 35 grand, how much trust do you build with the person on that cover? How much does that make you want to work with them, knowing that they paid for that feature? I don't know. That's for you to answer. All right. That's it for me. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll be back next week. Maybe my voice will be back next week. As I mentioned, get your pass for Get Published Live. Go to getpublished.live. Early bird available right now. Thank you so much for tuning in. We'll talk to you all next week. Take